Hey, I get it. When you're standing in front of a wall of welding gear, the biggest fear is sinking money into a machine that ends up gathering dust because it just isn't the right fit for what you actually need. You've probably spent a few minutes scrolling, looked at a handful of specs, maybe even watched a couple of quick demo videos, and now you're wondering, is this 6-in-1 TIG welder really worth it for my workshop, or am I just buying a fancy paperweight? If you're on that exact line of thought, you're not alone. The link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'm going to walk you through the real-world considerations that matter, not just the headline numbers. First off, let's set the scene. The PRPYVPEY 6-in-1 multifunction machine promises 200 amps ACDC capability, a dedicated aluminum mode MMA arc HFTIG, and a pulse function all tucked into an IGBT inverter that runs on a standard 220V supply. That sounds like a lot of flexibility, and on paper it covers most of the welding processes a hobbyist or a small shop pro could need. The biggest question, though, is how well it actually balances those functions when you take it out of the box and start using it on a regular basis. Who should be looking at this unit? If you're someone who already does a mix of TIG and MIG work, perhaps on thin sheet aluminum for automotive repairs, and you also dabble in occasional stick welding for repair jobs on older steel structures, this machine could be a solid all-in-one solution. The fact that it can switch between AC for aluminum and DC for steel without needing a separate power source saves you space and eliminates the need to keep two separate welders on the bench. For a mobile tech who needs a portable yet versatile setup, think a small contractor who moves between job sites. That 2-tire, 2T, mode for continuous duty and 4-tire, 4T, for intermittent work can be a practical way to manage heat and power draw. On the flip side, if you're a dedicated TIG specialist who works exclusively on high-precision aerospace aluminum, or a serious MIG fabricator who needs a high-end spool gun system, you might find the compromises in this machine limiting. The 200A rating is respectable, but it's shared across all the functions, meaning the more specialized machines, especially dedicated TIG rigs, often push higher current with tighter voltage regulation. In a setting where every amp matters for weld penetration, you could be better off with a single-purpose welder that can sustain 300A or more. Let's talk about the practical strengths. The biggest win I've seen from users who actually put this unit to work is the convenience of having the AC mode for aluminum built right in. When you're working on a motorcycle frame or a small boat hull, the ability to toggle to AC without swapping cables is a time saver. The pulse function, too, shines when you're welding thin copper or aluminum that would normally bite back and create spatter. By pulsing the current, the welder reduces the heat input per cycle, making it easier to control the bead and avoid warping thin material. For someone who's learning TIG on aluminum, that feature alone can be the difference between a smooth, clean weld and a messy, burnt-through mess. Another practical edge is the inclusion of a built-in MMA stick capability. A lot of hobbyists appreciate the ability to fire up a stick electrode for quick repairs on rusted pipelines or old farm equipment. You don't have to buy a separate stick welder, you just plug in the appropriate electrode and you're ready to go. The HF, high frequency, start is also a nice touch for TIG work, because it eliminates the need to scratch start, which can be a nuisance on thin metal. In daily use, those little conveniences add up, especially if you're a one-person operation juggling a variety of projects. Now, the hidden trade-offs. Because this is a multifunction unit, the control interface can feel a bit crowded. There are separate knobs for current, voltage, ACDC polarity, and pulse settings, and while the layout is generally intuitive, it does take a few minutes of fiddling to find the sweet spot for each mode. In a workshop where you're jumping from one weld to the next, that initial learning curve can feel like a slowdown. Also, the IGBT inverter, while efficient, does generate a noticeable hum at higher power levels. Most users report that the sound is just a background noise, but in a quiet environment, say, a home garage late at night, it can be a little distracting. Thermal management is another point worth mentioning. The unit is rated for 2-tire duty, meaning you can run it continuously for about an hour before the internal cooling fans kick in hard. In practice, I've seen users who run a string of small welds back-to-back hit the thermal limit and have to pause for a few minutes to let the machine cool. If your typical job is a series of quick spot welds, that's fine. If you're planning on long, continuous runs like building a steel frame for